55% of Gen Z and millennials say social media reviews are the top reason they try a restaurant, and 73% have visited a restaurant in the last 3 months because of one. Do you have timely reviews working for you? Quick turn influencer review campaigns from Bell Communication can fill tables fast. Visit bellcommunication.com/influence to learn more.
Welcome to Takeaway with Sam Oches, a podcast for leaders of growing restaurant companies looking to take their businesses to the next level. In nearly 2 decades covering restaurants, I've gained access to some of this industry's most influential decision makers, and I'm letting you in on the conversations. In today's episode, you'll hear from the CEO of an 80-unit West Coast coffee chain that is brewing to order every single cup of coffee it serves, proving that you do not have to sacrifice product quality to achieve digital or off-premises success. Mahesh Sadarangani is the CEO of Philz Coffee, an artisanal coffee brand that for more than 20 years has committed itself to serving handcrafted coffee using sustainably sourced beans from around the world. Mahesh arrived at Philz from Wingstop in 2021, and he set out to modernize and optimize the chain while protecting its quality commitment. He joined the podcast to talk about how Philz manages to obsess over its high-quality coffee, even as it adds tools like drive-thrus and loyalty programs. In this conversation, you will learn more about why your brand's original values are probably still relevant for your path forward, why even saturated categories are ripe for something outside the box, and how your brand's experience defines your relationship with your guest. If you learned something from this episode, please go follow Takeaway wherever you're listening to podcasts, and leave some feedback. It's the best way to share that lesson with a fellow restaurant leader. Jumping now into my interview with Philz CEO Mahesh Sadarangani. Also, don't forget to stick around after the interview, as I will share my 6 takeaways from this discussion, actionable insights that you can take with you on the go. All right, sitting down with Mahesh Sadarangani, the CEO of Philz Coffee. Mahesh, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me, Sam.
All right, Mahesh, you and I, we met several years ago when you were with Wingstop. So I want to start there because you've got this great history in the restaurant industry that you are now taking with you to this leadership position at Philz. Tell me a little bit about your career in food service.
Yeah, my career in food service started in 2014 at CEC Entertainment, parent of Chuck E. Cheese's and Peter Piper Pizza. Joined the brand, leading strategy, eventually rose to be the president of the franchise brand, Peter Piper Pizza. Loved my time at CEC Entertainment, very fond of the brand. Still, I take my kids there today. Very, very great memories there. CEC Entertainment. In 2019, I saw the writing on the wall. I think they had taken on too much debt. They were private equity owned. And I went over to Wingstop. And I was at Wingstop for 2.5 years. I loved my time at Wingstop. What a journey, what an experience, and what a great place to be, and still is. They are the pandemic darling and still growing leaps and bounds. I was the chief operating officer there, chief development officer, and head of digital delivery. So really enjoyed my 2.5 years there before I came to Philz in 2021, where I took over from the founder. We were founder-led, and now we're founder-inspired. Our founders created an amazing cup of coffee with a beautiful culture, a really amazing mission and values. And I was brought in to help scale the brand for growth. And that's where we're at today.
Sure. So Philz, I mean, if there's one thing that, when I think of Philz and how it's sort of different from the rest of the coffee category, seems like you guys are really just leaning into that sort of artisanal kind of step above on quality. Does that seem accurate?
That's right. That's right. Think third wave. So coffee's a highly fragmented space, very crowded. Everybody's doing lattes. You talked about the drive-thrus, offline. And Philz, we do things very differently. We do 1 cup at a time for you. So you pick your blend, your light, medium, or dark blend. We grind the bean in front of you. We do the creams and sugars, and we want you to try it to make sure it's perfect. It's that 1 cup at a time. It's customized for you. And that's how we set ourselves apart in this heavy sea of coffee out there.
Yeah. I'm so curious because from your perspective, you're at Wingstop, here's a brand that's, I don't want to say simple because obviously it's high quality, but Wingstop's pretty drilled in on what it does, which allows it to scale, right? For you, when you're on the outside looking in at this opportunity at Philz, And your job is to scale this thing. I mean, that's, people being able to choose what kind of bean they want. I mean, that's complicated, obviously to the benefit of the product, but did it seem sort of intimidating to you to say, oh, I'm going to come in and try to scale this thing?
It did. I think coming to any brand from an amazing company like Wingstop, where everything's structured, set in place, and it's grow, grow, grow. I think coming in, I had to look at what we were doing right. And there was a lot we were doing right. We had the coffee, and kudos to the team that bought coffee from around the world, brought it to our roasting facility in Oakland. Kudos to our head of people and culture and the team that created our mission and values again. They aren't just words on a wall for me. They're actually something that means we try to live it in our values. So our mission is to better days, and our values are to obsess over our customer, be kind and keep it real, and in pursuit of better. Those aren't just words for me. So I saw that coming in and I was like, wow, I haven't been at a company where the product was amazing, the mission and values were set, but everything else needed some optimization, needed some professionalization. So I hired an amazing team around me. I'm more than thankful for the leadership team we've brought in over the last 4 years. And we were brought in to help turn this company around, and we're now ready to scale it for growth. And that's what we're doing.
So I want to get into kind of what that looks like practically. But to start with, you mentioned the founder. I mean, now founder inspired. That's got to feel also intimidating, right? Like to come in and say, okay, so the person who has run this always is going to step aside for me to take this over. Like this is their baby, their dream. How does one come in to fill the shoes of a founder? What was that process like?
Yeah, I will tell you first, just to get the job, Phil and Jacob Jabber founded this company. And again, I think they did an amazing job. I don't think I could ever make a cup of coffee like they did and like they created, and all the different blends and all the notes we offer and the fun featured creations like our mint mojito. I think it's really important in coming in and working with founders, having a great relationship with them, making sure you see eye to eye on certain things. You can agree to disagree on things, but it's how you do it. Jacob and Phil had an amazing vision for this brand that I want to carry forward, though they're no longer with the brand today, as we recently got acquired by a new financial sponsor, Freeman Spogli. They are special to the brand. And so I live on that, and I make sure we think about everything they created the brand for and what it meant and how we're going to carry it forward.
All right, so it's getting into kind of that operational complexity of Philz and how the changes that you made to this brand in order to scale. Walk me through some of the main points here that you guys really specifically honed in on as, if we can do this, then we can scale this much faster.
Yeah. When I first interviewed and learned about the brand 4.5 years ago, when I was visiting California, I went to a store. I'll never forget. It was in LA, in Glendale, in LA. The team members were happy behind the counter. There was some great music playing. And I went to actually apply for a job as a barista to see how it worked. And I started asking questions like, how do you get your hours? How much do you get paid? Is it fun to work here? What's management like? And one of the things I learned through that conversation was they don't have a labor management system that helps them place the right team members when the customers are in the door. So bringing something like a labor management system into the company, which would seem so easy for a company that at that time had only 60 stores, but we brought in a labor management system. And then you could carry it to, I went to another store and I started asking, how do we do our inventory? And we weren't using a proper inventory management system. So it's bringing systems like a labor management system, an inventory management system to help scale us, help professionalize the company so we can then scale for growth.
So low-hanging fruit, in other words, that most restaurants are doing these things, just Philz had not gotten there.
Exactly. They had the amazing coffee with featured creations and a great culture, but they needed things like baseline systems. And now that we have those systems in place, we can start to do fun things like a lot of other coffee shops have, and a lot of restaurants for that matter have featured creations. So doing fun limited time offers, bringing in customers on a more frequent basis, and then overlaying that with loyalty, which we'll talk about today, which really creates that connection with the brand.
All right, so before we get into loyalty, I want to make sure we talk just about competition and sort of the state of things, because if I think about the last 5 years, and then specifically kind of hone in here on the last 4 years that you've been with Philz, an intense period of focus on off-premises business, right? that's when suddenly drive-through, delivery, carry-out became so important during COVID. And that obviously was right in the wheelhouse of most coffee brands. But I'm guessing not totally right in the wheelhouse for Philz, right? So you guys are more of the experience, the coffee shop experience. I told you before we hit record, my main thing with Philz I always remember is its role in that show Silicon Valley. And I mean, it's been 10 years since that show was on. And, that show was on at the height of artisanal everything. We want to go into the restaurant and experience the thing. And Philz was so perfect for that moment. But then COVID hits and everything's off premises. I'm just curious, like at that moment you arrive at this brand, was there a tension there that this brand is designed for a moment that maybe in the past, and the future of coffee consumption is a little bit different than how Philz is, how it presents its product? Does that feel right?
Yeah, when I came in, we didn't even have a drive-through. We had our store format was traditional inline retail in a shopping center. We tried to be at the corner of Main and Main, which is where all the best restaurants would be or the best shops would be. What I did is I said, we need to have more than one store format. And so we did convert our mobile store in Fullerton, California to a drive-through. Super excited. It took us a little bit of time to do that, about 6 months, but that is our highest average unit volume store in our network of our 78 stores today. What's exciting is that gives us a format to say drive-through can work at Philz, despite the fact that we do one cup at a time made for you. And so we are opening several more drive-throughs over the next few years. Our next new drive-through opens in Pleasanton, California, which is on the East Bay side of San Francisco, south of Oakland. And so that opens in about 10 days. That'll give us our second sample size of drive-through. If it can match the performance of what we see down in Fullerton, California, it will be the platform to bring more drive-throughs. I think one concern people had is, are you willing to wait for your coffee? And people wait for a great product. Take In-N-Out, for example. We wait 15 minutes for that great burger. And so you'll wait the right amount of time to get your great cup of coffee.
So then you have to be looking at all of this surge in drive-through brands, Dutch Bros, Scooters, Seven Brew. How do you change the Philz approach at all in response to what's happening in coffee drive-through today, or beverage drive-through, I should say?
Yeah, coffee's hot. I think you know that. I think what all the different players out there are doing is pretty amazing. You mentioned a few of the big ones, Dutch Bros, Seven Brews, and they're growing leaps and bounds. What I would say is they offer a different product versus us. We are trying to do that one cup at a time. We don't do lattes. We make custom creations for you. And so we are a distinct brand in the sea of the same. And so I'm excited to bring more drive-throughs in new communities throughout not only California, but as we start to look at out of California growth in the next few quarters. And so that's what excites me. There is some great competition out there. I try their products. I'm excited, but we offer a very distinct experience and taste versus everyone else.
Okay, so I want to talk about Starbucks then, because Starbucks, obviously a little different than Philz, but also very different than those drive-through brands you're talking about, because it has always kind of staked this claim in quality. It is a little bit more of that traditional coffee shop like Philz is. And I have to imagine you're looking at Starbucks a little bit like, feels like maybe there's some blood in the water here. Like that, that's how I would be seeing this as a competitor, which is there's a door open now to be able to take away some market share from Starbucks. How do you see the opportunity in coffee aside from the drive-through brands, just in the fact that the biggest player in this category is kind of down right now?
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack. Starbucks is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. And I think with the new CEO, Brian Niccol, coming in and what all the amazing things he did at Chipotle over the, 6-7 years he was there. And you can't discount that. Look what an amazing brand he created with the team and carried on today. Now he's over at Starbucks, and they are going through some woes. They recently, you heard about closing more than 500 stores. They have some issues on closing their mobile only stores and trying to go back to that third place. So while they are feeling some short-term pain, I'm one of those competitors that says, hey, don't discount what the 800-pound gorilla in the room is doing, especially when you hire an amazing leader like Brian is. And so while there's a lot to learn, I think one thing that's really key about Philz is we never strayed away from being that third place. We were always about community. One of the things we talked about is we want to welcome all. We're like grandma's living room, everyone come. So we want that community, we want that connection, and then we offer that custom product. So think the three C's. That's how we never change. So despite some of the turmoil that Starbucks has been through, we've tried to just be slow and steady at Philz and sticking on those three C's. And so with that said, I won't discount the largest competitor. I do think they'll shine again one day, and that'll just be great for everyone in coffee.
Yeah, it seems to me like one of the main lessons from what Starbucks is going through now is that, especially in coffee, identity and relationship to the guest are kind of everything. That, again, you talk about those Dutch Bros and drive-through brands. The identity is spin through the drive-through, get something quick. The identity of a Philz is you care about the quality more than most, and you want something upscale. And to me, it feels like Starbucks maybe has been sort of sampling identities. It's like, oh, maybe we're the, fast drive-through mobile brand. Oh, no, okay, maybe we'll go be that coffee shop brand. How much does that identity, I mean, from your experience at all of the brands you've worked for, how much does an identity and relationship with guest really matter to the success of your business?
I think it's super important. Customers want to know when they're coming to a brand, they're getting that identity. So for Philz, we know we're one cup at a time. We offer something in the coffee space that no other digital brand, no other brand offers. So if you order on our mobile platform and you get your filtered sold cold brew, for example, and make it sweet and creamy, we connect the digital world to the physical world by telling you what barista to go to and to pick it up from. We tell you who to go to. So pick up your order from Sam. He'll be completing your order. And Sam, who is our barista, for example, will say, hey, I want to make sure this is to your perfection. Can you try a sip? We do the creamers, we do the sugars. And so that's how we're different than everyone else. We've never strayed away from that community. So coming back to your question, I think it's really important you stick to one and you float and you stay with it so consumers don't get confused on what is that brand.
Right. Well, one of Starbucks' biggest issues has been labor, right? It's been not only down to what employees are wearing, they got sued for that, but also, the layout of their kitchen, some of the tools they're trying to use for efficiencies. Obviously, hiring and retention is tough for everybody. When you're talking about like your guests can see the barista who's preparing their order, in my head, I'm like, wow, your labor is way more important than everybody in this category because A, they've got to really know their stuff. They've got to be a great barista, but also B, they are literally the face of your brand. So how important is that labor component, and how do you hire, in the right way that can kind of keep that focus on the talent?
Yeah, people are the foundation to our success at Philz. Everything that I have, everything I'm working towards, I can't do it without our frontline team members, our baristas. And it's when they create that community, that connection with our customers, that's what makes Philz very different than everyone else in the loss and in the landscape of coffee. And we take that with pride. So coming back to our training, we have a very rigorous training program because we do offer that custom cup of coffee for you. So it's a 2-week intense training program. It's led by our Philz University team, which is essentially our learning development team, where they make sure each barista can walk through and understand how to make that coffee for you. Very proud of what our training team has done. You've heard some of the turnover rates in multi-unit retail restaurants, some of them being about 100%. We have some of the lowest turnover rates of any company I've been in my career. In our home office, I think we're sub 15% turnover. In our frontline team members, we're at about 50% turnover, which is unheard of when you think about coffee and just being in the restaurant space.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we have belabored this too long. Let's get into your loyalty program because you guys just announced this last week. It's really exciting. But I got to ask, Mahesh, what took so long? When I hear about brands launching loyalty programs in 2025, I'm like, wow, it's a little late, but better late than never. So why was it late for Philz?
Yeah, let's just say there was a lot to work on when I got here. So first thing I had to do is build an amazing team around me. And we've hired an amazing, whether it's our chief operating officer, our chief business officer, our chief development officer, just the whole C-suite. Everyone is new and they're helping us scale that brand and bring Philz to more communities. As I think about reading customer comments every day when I come into the office, the number one thing our customers have asked us is for loyalty. And it's pretty mind blowing. It's like, I want loyalty. I want loyalty. They want to be connected to the brand, which is a pretty amazing thing if that's the number one customer comment after read. So it did take us a while. We do have an award winning app from Apple that we're really proud of working with them. It took us, I would say, well over a year to design our loyalty platform, working with Patronix as our partner. And we laid it onto our mobile platform, which is a custom platform. And so super excited to bring it to consumers. It took us a while, but sometimes better late than never. And it's a great product that we rolled out. I'm really pleased. Within the first 7 days, almost 100,000 members right out the gate, which is pretty strong.
That's incredible. Tell me about the loyalty program, how it works, what are some ways in which you kind of made it distinctly Philz?
Yeah. So I think it's just the app is more than just coffee, right? We make sure you have the community. So you go to your store and pick the coffee that, basically pick where you want your coffee. We have the connection with the barista, and then we have customization. An example, coming back to the connection with the baristas, after you get your coffee order, you can give a high five emoji to your barista saying, thank you for the coffee. We try to bring that connection and that to the barista. So it's a little bit more of a fun loyalty app. With each order, we fill your cup, we start your cup, and we give you 150 points when you join our loyalty platform. You also get a free medium to large upgrade. And we're going to do fun things like birthday rewards, special treats to our customers. So I'm really excited to bring that customization to our customers that have been asking for it, for that matter, for 4 years since I've been here. 4 years since I've been here, and you're right. It's taken a while, but better late than never.
Well, you want to get it right. A loyalty program is not something you want to get wrong. It's a big rollout. What do you think could be possible with loyalty? Because obviously it's called loyalty. What you want is customer loyalty. So the goal here is to just get repeat business. But now with these app-based programs, I mean, the potential for data and for improving your product and just improving the overall experience is huge. I recently spoke with the team at Domino's, which is, just a world away from everybody on all this stuff. But like they literally can make a pizza before you order. They start making it your pizza before you order it because they know so well what you're going to do based on the loyalty. I'm just curious from a Philz perspective, through the Philz filter, what can loyalty achieve for this brand?
Yeah, I think to start, look, there are a lot of places you can get a cup of coffee. I think we can all agree. And we talked about some of them, some of the drive-through players earlier. We want you to get that habit from Philz. We want you to come to Philz to get your morning cup of coffee or your afternoon pick-me-up. And so that's important. So creating that connection with the consumer is really important. For example, I think one weekend, we have one customer that's gotten 15 coffees in a matter of 5 days. That's a pretty caffeinated consumer. And when I think about why they picked Philz, so it's, we want to reward our customers. And so when you get 1,200 points, you get a free drink. Also, we can, while I can't at this time, I don't have the ability to say, here's what I think Sam will get. We're going to bring all this data together. And that takes a few months to make sure we can create custom creations as well as custom offers for you to really help you connect to the brand. So when you do need your habit, coffee in the morning, we want to make sure you come to Philz.
Yeah. So if we look at the sort of coffee category in general right now, I mean, again, a loyalty program does not, to me, quality and sort of the high tech loyalty mobile app ordering, those live together very, very well. But, simultaneously, a lot, especially like the drive-through only brands, it just feels like so much of the category is moving into this just really convenience is key, sort of direction, right? And I'm all about that. And I'm sure there's obviously plenty of customers who the convenience is their number one priority here. But I'm curious about your perspective of where the coffee industry goes in the future, because convenience being so key to so many of these brands, all of them looking at speed, all of them looking at, throughput in the drive-through. I mean, Phil's still clinging on to that quality, which I appreciate, by the way, as a coffee fan myself. How can quality stay at the core of this category? Where do these things settle out? Do we feel like too many Americans are going to accept that you can get a cheap cup of coffee so long as you get it fast? Or do you see us coming back around to where we really do put some priority in quality?
Yeah, it remains to be unseen, but at Phil's, we want to focus on quality. I get a nice laugh when I hear some of the drive-through brands. They talk about they want to create connection, but at the same time, they're looking at their throughput lanes for the drive-throughs and sending them as fast as through the drive-through lane. Yeah, how are you creating that connection when you're sending them when you're tracking how fast they're going through the drive-through lane? So for Phil's, we don't want to stray from our mission, which is to better days. And
Hmm.
you do that through community, connection, customization. Again, we are grandma's living room. We want you to come spend time, have that amazing cup of coffee made for you. We don't want to stray away from that. And like you said, jump to this brand identity, this brand identity. We want to make sure consumers enjoy their custom coffee for you, and we don't think we will move away from that.
But obviously, you want to grow too. So tell me about finding that right balance of saying, okay, we want to grow, but I imagine that requires a little bit more intent. It requires a little bit more, of a slower pace. What does growth look like while keeping that core at the center of Phil's?
Yeah. So we currently have we currently have at 78 stores, and we'll open our 79th store in Pleasanton, the drive through next in about 10 days. We have 6 stores in the Chicago market and the balance in California, where we own the California market, where we have extremely high average unit volumes and great four wall EBITDA and cash on cash returns. We're going to continue to want to fortress California and own the state and grow thoughtfully within California, expanding within California. But it will be time over the next few quarters to go outside the state. And whether that's continued growth in Chicago or go to some more Western states or cities like a Phoenix, Las Vegas, maybe even Dallas or Austin. And so we're looking forward to carrying the brand outside where we're predominantly known in California and carrying it into other great states so we can come to more communities near you.
Gosh, I mean, California, the operating environment there. You guys could probably write a book on doing business in California, considering you want to kind of double down on that. How have you navigated this just sort of crazy climate of being a business in California?
Fourth largest economy in the world. And what I always tell people, if you think Northern California is the same as Southern California, it's like going in 3 different states. And so, with the high barriers to entry that California has, I'm a firm believer if you can succeed in California, and we have, you can easily succeed in the other states. So you just want to make sure you're bringing the same great product in a thoughtful way to those new communities.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Mahesh, last question for you. What are you most excited about for the future of Phil's?
Yeah, we recently got acquired by Freeman Spogli, uh, and we are on the path for growth. And so
Hmm.
when you think about what's ahead, I joined Phil's 4 years ago, and we were basically known as a California coffee shop, custom California coffee shop. I think what you're going to see in the quarters and years ahead is more than just a California coffee shop. We're going to come to more communities across the United States. And so I'm super excited about that. And when you add it with our loyalty and our new featured creations that we're constantly bringing out, I think there's a lot of excitement ahead.
Very exciting. Well, I will wait here patiently in Ohio until you make your way here, but I am eager for it. Mahesh Sadarangani of Philz Coffee. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
That was my interview with Philz Coffee CEO Mahesh Sadarangani. So, what should you learn from this interview? Here are my 6 takeaways. My first takeaway is that the coffee category is highly fragmented, and that is good news for all of us. We have been talking nonstop about beverage here at NRN for months and months now, and for good reason. Unless you're living under a rock, I'm sure you have noticed that there has been a proliferation of beverage-focused brands and a proliferation of beverage menus and new beverage creations at established restaurant chains. Customers are clamoring for new and exciting beverages, whether that's in soda, in coffee, in boba tea, and beyond. That's why you see so much activity in coffee in particular, and you've seen the rise of Dutch Bros and Seven Brew and so many other beverage drive-through brands that are specifically serving coffee creations. Philz has been around now for over 20 years, and compared to a lot of the other upstart coffee chains, is really kind of a veteran in the space. But I think what is so distinct about this brand is that it is committed to that high quality cup of coffee. It is brewing every coffee to order. And you just don't see that in so many of these other coffee chains out there today. It's not serving lattes or espresso based beverages, which is what a lot of these drive-through chains are doing. It is grinding the beans for every single order. It is committing itself to the guests knowing which barista is brewing their cup of coffee. All of this, again, is really just this obsession with quality. And as Mahesh pointed out in the interview, that's abnormal for the coffee space, but that's a good thing for the coffee space because you have so many different options. You have here on the high end Philz, which again is committed to that cup of coffee, cup of high quality coffee, and then all the way down to some of these brands that are really focused on speed and accessibility. And you have coffee brands and beverage brands all over the place in between. And so every customer in America really has an option for them, whether that's the price they're looking for, whether that's, again, speed of service they're looking for, whether that's quality they're looking for. There is some company out there serving that need, and that's a good thing for the American consumer. My second takeaway is that your brand's original values are probably still relevant for your path forward. So Mahesh spoke about the founders of Philz Coffee. They're no longer with the brand, but their vision for this company and what they established as the foundation of this company still live on in Philz Coffee as the core values. I love talking to restaurant founders because they are the beating heart of their brands. Their vision is what brought to life this brand in the first place. And even for those companies that no longer have their founder, I love to see when they're still founder inspired. One example from last year, I spent a lot of time with Texas Roadhouse, and founder Kent Taylor, who passed away a few years ago, he still lives on in that brand because his vision for it, his core values that he built into the foundation of the brand are still really the guiding light for Texas Roadhouse. That's true at Philz as well, as Mahesh talked about, is that the founders, their vision, their core values, the foundation they built are still relevant, even though they're not with the brand anymore. And Mahesh is really trying to protect that. You should think about what the origin story of your brand is, even if the founders are no longer there, even if they've passed away, even if your brand has been around for a long, long time. What was the original vision? What were those original core values? Because that's going to be the most authentic version of your brand. And if you're struggling to figure out your personality, your identity as a company, that could be a good place to go back and start at, because you're going to get, again, that authenticity for the brand. You're going to get that beating heart that the founder put in place into the foundation. And it really could help you point your company into the right path forward. My third takeaway is that restaurant brands need multiple formats to fulfill their potential. In this day and age, as real estate is really hard to come by, there is such a saturation across so many different categories. You really would do yourself a favor if you developed new store formats, new footprints for your brand so that you can be nimble, can be flexible, and move into the real estate that becomes available to you. Now, the way Philz has done that is it has developed a drive-through prototype. Before, Philz was so committed to its high quality that it wasn't going that direction of drive-through. But Mahesh and his team have figured this out, and I loved how he was able to explain that they are still able to accomplish that high quality cup of coffee served through the drive-through. And in fact, their original drive-through prototype now has the highest average unit volume of any of the Philz in the system, and they are pledging more drive-through locations going forward. But as Mahesh said, having that ability to do drive-through opens up a lot of potential for this brand to move into new neighborhoods, new communities where it can serve the Philz coffee. Even if it's not drive-through for your brand, what is the other format that could unlock that real estate potential? Whether it's drive-through, whether it's non-traditional in an arena or an airport, whether it's actually a bigger footprint with dining, whatever that might be, have that format in mind, that prototype designed and developed so that you have that flexibility to open into the real estate that is available to you. My fourth takeaway is that even saturated categories are ripe for something outside the box. So going back to my original point on the coffee category, the fragmentation, you might look at coffee and beverage in general today and say, there's just so much going on It's too saturated. I just don't think that, I don't think my coffee idea is going to make it in this world. Or maybe you play in another space that's very saturated, pizza or burger or whatever that might be. It's easy to be intimidated and say, oof, I don't know my path forward because there's just so many competitors out there. Well, the fact of the matter is again, going back to that fragmentation in coffee, every category is ripe for disruption. It is ripe for something a little bit different, a little bit outside the box. And if you can establish your lane within a busy category, you still have the potential to grow. Think about what that lane could be for your brand, how it could connect you to potential guests out there, and really lean into it, because when you carve out that niche for your brand, it could be that path to growth. My fifth takeaway is that your experience defines your relationship with your guests, and you should not mess with it too much. When Mahesh and I spoke about Starbucks especially and what Starbucks is going through these days, to me, it really seems like Starbucks is having an identity crisis. On one hand, it has all these competitors that are really competing in drive-through and off-premises service and speed and accessibility. But on the other hand, Starbucks has for so long been committed to quality, similar to Philz, maybe a little bit less so, but still it's committed to that third place, that come and stay a while vibe, and a higher quality cup of coffee than a lot of competitors have served. And I think it's having this tension where it just doesn't know what identity to lean into. And so Mahesh and I talked about this fact that when you have a brand identity, you have this identity that's created through your experience. And whether that experience is more on the high end, dine-in, high quality service, whatever it is, or if it's on the lower end where it's known for fast speed of service, lower prices, whatever, you've established that identity, that experience, and you've built a relationship with your guest through that experience. What happens is when you have an identity crisis, or when you try to shake it up and go for a different experience, that can be confusing to the guest, as Mahesh pointed out. And he believed, and I believe too, you have to instead really go deep on that identity you've already established, that experience you've created. Really lean into it. Again, going back to that niche I was talking about, that you can carve for a saturated category. Similarly, really carve deep into your personality, your brand personality, what that is, and don't stray too far from it, because when you do and your guest gets confused, what's at stake is that relationship with your guest. My sixth and final takeaway is that human connection is alive and well in the restaurant industry. Even in this day and age, when we talk so much about technology, we talk so much about off-premises and efficiencies and AI, the fact of the matter is most people still want a human connection. I think Philz is the perfect embodiment of this. As Mahesh really spelled out, the model where baristas are custom making every cup of coffee they serve. Customers know which barista is making their product. There is an interaction with the barista when you pick up your coffee. There's a conversation that you have with them. That is still in demand around the country. People still want that interaction with a human being, of course, depending on the concept. But what I love about Philz is, it's got an intensive training program. It's got really low turnover, as Mahesh said. And so what that means is it's got these people, this culture that are invested in the brand and are sharing that with guests, creating this great experience, which therefore is creating loyalty with guests. And it's all around providing this great experience that Philz is leaning into as it grows. Yours can be the same. Your human connection can be the catalyst to great things in the future for your brand. And, again, it's easy to get distracted by the shiny tools that replace humans, but I wouldn't do that too quickly if especially your guests are looking for some sort of connection to your brand. Those are all my takeaways for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to subscribe to Takeaway wherever you're listening to podcasts, and leave your feedback. You can also email me at sam.oches@informa.com. Thanks again, and talk to you next week.